Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE Noding. In this episode, I want to share the breakdown of this setup. It's actually a recreation of the old sverchok node setup. This one is using geometry nodes. I'm trying to instance a long curve of a 3D mesh. In this case, just Susan head. I have a few variation of this. So basically, yeah, like I said, I want to be able to instance objects or just make the curve kind of controllable, the edges of the mesh. So originally this was actually more like a stick. If I show you, okay, this is the simple versions. What I can do is, I'm turning every edges into sticks, and then I sort of able to rotate or instance more objects on top of it. So let me show you. Okay, first of all, I subdivide Suzanne if I want to have more edges, and then I use this combo mesh to curve and then convert it back into mesh. So this one is separating all the edges, and delete geometry is actually optional. This is deleting every other. You can randomize delete the edges, but basically this is reducing the number of edges, kind of like a bit. With modulo, it's not really random. It's like 0 1 0 1 pattern, but anyway, it's deleting some of the edges and then scaling the elements. This one is interesting because suddenly you're able to scale every edges, kind of extending every edges as a curve. Actually, at this point, it is actually still a mesh. So if we delete some edges, we can also scale the edges uniformly. That's cool. Scale elements, and then extra subdivision here. Now I want to subdivide every edges here and then convert it into curve. Once it is a curve, we can actually instance on top of the curve, right? So this is I think the bottom. This is the old ways I probably would do it. There's another way. Let's see what happened here. Yeah, in here I subdivide. If I subdivide the curve and then subdivide the edges and then convert it into curve, I can then set position the curve using noise and play around with the curve radius, then convert it back into mesh, and we get something that looks kind of interesting, almost like abstract strokes on top of 3D. Yeah, like a wicker sort of. You can see the effects on the typography here. Okay. The other way to do this, if you want to have more control of the edges, because we can already scale the edges, right? We can extend and we can kind of modify the shapes of the each edges or each stick. The other way, so after you scale the elements, after you scale the edges, convert it to curve. What I want to do here, I'm doing something a little bit clever, I think. So each of the edges, right? Each of the edges can be trimmed. Trim is very useful. You can trim the start and the end of every curve edge. So you can trim it into something really short. If it's really short, we can then merge the 2 points and we get the middle points. That's what I'm trying to do here. So I realize the instance of every edges, and I trim the curve, the start and the end, make it very short and meet at the center. So, and by doing that, I convert the curve back into mesh and then merge it by distance, make it like a really short distance, and then using this center point as the, like I sample the index of this and then use it as the center point for rotations. That's really what I'm trying to do, get the center points pivot. This, I think this should be simpler. I think hopefully in the future of geometry nodes, I just need to find a middle points and then use that as a pivot points. So by doing that, I can randomize the stick. You see here, the stick can be randomized on the center. You can see the effects. So I thought that's kind of nice, that kind of ability. And yeah, I'm still treating it as instance. So I'm using it as the center and pivot points here. I believe I could use it to scale, but this one is scaling it almost like when the transform is applied, so it's no longer like a stick. So this is the side effects of this rotate instance. Okay, we can rotate, and then yeah, basically that's what it is. If you want to see the last effects, probably I'm turning it into it's something that looks like coins. Same things going on. Get the center points and then have ability to have this, to be able to rotate from the center of every edges, randomizing it. And then the scale thing. Okay, in this case, I could kind of scale it. Now, so the idea at the very beginning is to have every edges to have instance, right? So that's kind of happening here. We need to, if we want to have a proper directions of the edges, we can rotate it while having it to have like an up axis based on the normal, I think. Anyhow, in this case, I think I use noise thing. I incorporate the noise thing into the setup, and then I instance something that looks like a coins. So the instance is happening here, instance on points, and then I extrude it. Blender doesn't have a way to turn edges. It can turn edges into like a cylinder easily, but it doesn't turn it into like a slice of circle. I wish it kind of does. So the way to do it is to instance a bunch of circle that has been filled into the points along the edges. So let's see, curved. I'm using the direction of the curve to align the rotations of this little cylinder that looks like a coins. So at this point, I'm simply using the curve points and then instance a bunch of objects there. Set curve radius should work. Somehow in this case it doesn't seem to work. Set curve radius. Yeah, probably because it's no longer instance. Yes, to curve. Unsupported type curve. Oh, okay. Maybe it's too confusing at this point. We better go back to this one. This one's simpler. Everything, it's like a weaker. So in this one, I do have set curve radius control. So it's not instance along curve, but at least I have each curve, each polygon edges as curve that can be controlled using curve radius. And we simply do extrusions. Yeah, I still think this effect's pretty cool. It's like a pipe, turning every edges of the 3D into pipe, and then, you know, randomize the radius, and then on top of that we can rotate them randomly. So from far away it looks like a certain complex looking sculpture. Yeah, like I said, this is just simulating sverchok instance along curve. With sverchok 1 you can actually do things using a single node. This one's kind of doing that, but using geometry nodes. Hopefully, okay, you will find this useful. Anyway, I think this part is quite clever with a trim curve. It's quick trick to get the center points of every polygon edges, and then use the rest. Just simply turn it back into a curve, and then you can do instancing and rotate and scale, things like that. All right, so hopefully you find it useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.